Welcome to this week's morning rant. Now, the other night I was in a nightclub. Yes, I know. Getting too old for that sort of thing. You may well think, actually, I don't think that at all. I quite enjoy going to a nightclub with friends. A bit of late night drinking, a bit of boogieing. But I quite enjoy that scene. And it's probably where I came from, because when I was younger, I was a DJ. I DJ'd from my late teens, as well as being in the band. I also DJ'd all the way up to sort of my late 20s. And why did I give up DJing? Well, I gave up DJing quite often because I was looking at a lot of people I knew had gone through that 30 barrier and were finding it much harder and harder to get work as a DJ because they were now in their 30s. So either you're damn good, in which case you were kept on, or you were sort of starting to sort of find that clubs weren't booking you. That was sort of kind of the market back then. Things have probably changed a bit now, but that was the market. So I started off being a mobile jock, and I eventually gradually moved into being a club jock. And I did have a partner for quite a long time actually as a club jock, but I used to do it on my own as well. But anyway, I was in this nightclub, and I was sort of kind of at a place, I suppose, so the DJ would be here, and I was kind of over here, I suppose, sort of slightly higher than him on the platform, and I was watching this guy work. And he had, I think they were Pioneer CDJs, his MacBook Pro, and a set of headphones. The guy never spoke on the mic, and to be honest, he really didn't read his audience. But there was no, I'm sitting there thinking to myself how this has changed since I was a DJ. And it leads me to question, has the art of DJing been lost? And the reason I say that is because back in when I did it, you went through a learning curve. You know, you start off as a mobile DJ, and if you're any good, people book you. And if you're not any good, you don't get any bookings. I was not bad. Put it this way. In fact, I would say I was probably better than not bad. I wasn't half bad. I could hold my own. I was no Pete Tong, I was no celebrity DJ, but I could go into a nightclub and I could make people dance. And for a DJ, that's what you're being employed to do. You're being employed to go into a nightclub and make people dance. So, and that's kind of, I suppose, the place to start, because you learn, especially if you're a junior DJ, you just started out, so you get various different slots to do. You always start, especially in the nightclub, they may give you the warm-up slot, and that tends to be the slot from when they open till sometime around about 10:30. Depending on how the nightclub works. So if it was 10 o'clock, it'd be 10 to 11 or something like that, and then the regular jock would come on. But that warm-up slot was brilliant, and I actually used to, even when I was, you know, an experienced jock, I actually used to enjoy the warm-up slot. And I'll tell you the reason why I used to enjoy the warm-up slot is because during the warm-up slot, any of the 12 inches that you've been given by an A&R guy, or, you know, been given to you by the sort of guy down the local record shop, or whatever it happened to be, that was the time when you put those records on and you found out whether they were any good on a bigger arse PA system. Because if you put them on and there was nothing there, then you could assign them to the back of the box and say to the A&R guy, you've played it, it did nothing, and then those guys would go away happy that it got played in the evening. But that was when you sort of kind of assessed whether a record was going to go there. And quite often, you know, they would be pushing the sort of main mix on side A of the 12-inch. Whereas if you sort of were playing around with it, you'd probably find that mix 2, which would be the second mix on the B side, would be the better mix for the club. Just purely because of what type of club you were in. And the type of club also dictated on whether you would play this thing or whether you wouldn't play this thing. Because quite often they would come in and give you a ballad, and you would sort of look around the club and say, this is a banging trance zone. You're not going to put a ballad on, don't be stupid. But the the party slot was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that, and quite often when I was working at nightclubs, because there was virtually nobody in on that sort of opening area, you know, quite often you would be able to talk to the staff, and the staff would sort of like give you feedback on what the record was doing. Really, really good. And then you had, which was probably was my favourite slot actually, is if I got to do the party slot. The party slot was so much fun. You know, you could drop all kinds of rubbish into the party slot, and you would have people dancing. And I used to, if I was DJing with a partner, then we used to play the game in the party slot. So it was no more than 2 minutes. The record could go for no more than 2 minutes, and then the other person had to follow it with something equally as daft. And you just watch the crowd react to how you drop things in and out. So we would be dropping things in and out every 30 seconds on certain records. And some records you'd leave to run for 2 minutes, 2 and a bit minutes. But the party slot was really, really fun. But you learn how to craft that. The guy on the other night, he was just playing the same monotonous boom, 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 boom. There was no change, there was no drift. There was no feeling in what he was doing, which I found really, really difficult to understand. You know, he had a room that was ready to dance, and yet he wasn't dropping the right tunes for the audience that was in the club. The club was a slightly older audience, you know, hence the reason why I was there. It wasn't full of 18-year-olds. So the music you have to drop is different, and this guy was not getting it. He was playing what he wanted to listen to, he wasn't playing what the audience wanted him to be listening to. Now, going back to my days, you know, quite often you'd either be on a I mean, quite often I got played to play multiple clubs because they had guest DJs coming in. So what they would do is they would ship jocks in and out of different clubs, so that the jocks were being alternated with these guest DJs that were dropping in and out. And you'd play an hour session, and you move on to the next club, and then an hour later you play another hour session, you move on to the next club, and then you play another hour session. And you were sort of effectively complementing the celebrity who was moving around either before you or in front of you to clubs. But they did that. And then other nights you would do from 9 till 3 AM. Which wasn't actually much different if you think from a mobile perspective, because you were doing from about 6 through to midnight as a mobile, because you had to get there and set up, and then you had to break down at the end of the night. So in terms of how much effort, although doing clubs is far easier because you didn't have to lift as much equipment. But that first hour was when you worked out whether this tune was the next best. It was the best thing as the A&R guy since Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And if you don't know what that is, go and Google it. Or whether it was a turkey, or whether it was going to be the next Alison Limerick. In fact, coming back to this, here's another classic example. I used to run a cappellas and breakbeats from various different records over other records all the time. It was one of my favourite things to do. And I can't think of what the name of is it Crystal Waters, I think it is, the one that goes la da dee da da da, la da dee da da da. That was a brilliant record. You could run that over everything. It was such a static beat to it, but you could use it as a break fill, you could use it as a link, you could just drop it over the top of something else that was running, you could run an a cappella over the top of it. It's brilliant. The other one I really liked was Alison Limerick, Where Love Lives. That dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. That was really good. And some nights I used to drop that in, take it out, and people would think the record was coming in. I'd drop something completely different in, and people would go, "Well, when did they get that riff?" Because it didn't. It was because you were mixing it in and out. But in order to do that, you had to beat match the records, and you had to do that by ear because you had no technology there. I mean, the only thing I really had was I had a beat counter. Now, the reason I had a beat count was the first time I used to get a record out, and if I was going to keep it, I would beat match it with a beat counter. So I would know it was 122 beat beats per minute or 145 beats per minute or whatever it happened to be. But that was just for me. That was for storage, really, more than anything else. Because I only used to store all my records in a certain order. So I knew that plus or minus 4 BPM would integrate seamlessly with the record that was already on. But that was how I did it. Now, on a CDJ, you say, that's my target, that's my new record coming in, that's my old record going out. And it phase shifts the two together. So if this one is more than plus or minus 4 beats, this one will be uplifted and that one will be downlifted. And then what it then does, it's cleverly, whereas if you sped a record up, it'll get more squealy, the pitch would go up. If you slowed it down, the pitch would go down. But with the CDJ, it pitch matches for you. You know, so again, there's no art there in terms of matching the record, the outgoing record to the incoming record, because the machine's doing it for you. And I sat and watched this guy do this. I thought to myself, you know, gone are the days where, you know, I used to hold a record on a slip mat, and I used to let it go, and then you used to sit there, and it's difficult to see unless you've done it, but you used to brush the record, just advance it. So if you were almost there in terms of the pitch, the speed of the deck, you might want to make a slight adjustment just to bring it up, but you might brush it forward so it knocks the beat forward. Or you used to tap it with your finger, just to knock the beat back. That's how you got the record into that synchronization area. And then you could just keep it in sync by just touching either the outgoing record or the incoming record, or just advancing them slightly. That was how he did it. Nowadays, the CDJ does it for you. There's no learning there. The CDJ does it for you. But, you know, that's what the CDJ has done. It's opened up, but has it closed down, being the DJ? The other thing I found really strange, and I said this earlier on in this video, is the guy who was DJing wasn't reading his audience. At no point did I see him drop an old school tune. Given that your audience is sort of probably 10 years younger than me, okay, so late 30s, early 40s type touch, they would have grown up with certain tunes, and there are certain trigger tunes from the era that they grew up. You know, you can play these tunes in a nightclub now, and it will fill a dance hall with all the youngsters. But they're trigger tunes. They use Alison Limerick, Where Love Lives, Ultranati, various trigger tunes that you could use. But he didn't use that. He was just playing. There was no thought to what the guy was doing. Whereas if you'd come up the way I came up when I was DJing, you know, you worked with other people, you understood how they read the dance floor, how they read the audience, where they crafted the record from. You know, they knew which records they could drop at certain points in the evening to start that dance floor going. They knew what records they could drop at certain points in the evening to ram the dance floor. They knew what records they could drop in the evening to clear the dance floor. And you may say, why do you want to clear the dance floor? Well, actually, sometimes, you know, it wasn't a bad idea to actually thin the dance floor out a bit, because too many people on the dance floor can actually lead to accidents. So if you've got it real, but you know, a dance floor where you've dropped to kill a tune and you've got the dance floor rammed like sardines, you know, and they're dancing on the stairs and they're dancing in the aisles and they're dancing anywhere they can basically find some space to wave their arms about, you know you've got a banging night going. And if you can get to that stage, you're onto a winner. You're absolutely onto a winner. The other thing I said about this is I looked at this guy and he's sitting there with a MacBook plugged into these CDJs. Right? So all his music's being held in iTunes. Now years ago when I did it, you know, we had vinyl, right? And you used to walk into the venue, or I used to walk into a venue typically with 4 cases of vinyl, right? Each one of those cases would hold, I don't know, 70, maybe 80 records. So these things were heavy, right? And I had 4 of those. I used to have 4 of those. That was my stable night for DJing. 4 12-inch records cases, and that's, you know, that was your records for the night. Nowadays you can have multiple sets on your iTunes. You're not limited. In fact, I've actually seen guys in the past walk in with just memory sticks and plug them in, and all their sets are on a memory stick. You know, but they tend to play a much limited set at that point in time. They know they're going to play effectively from record 1 to record 20 or something. But you can have everything on iTunes, so your variety is much better. It's much bigger. You can carry with you a much bigger variety of music. Whereas in the day, I was limited to 4 boxes because that was physically what I could carry. But yet, in those 4 boxes, I knew what records would play, what records to play underneath, what the punters would invariably ask for, and it would be invariably whatever the latest sort of big banging tune would be. But that was invariably where you were. This guy had a Mac, but he didn't choose to look into his Mac library and play other music that the punters might enjoy. Now, for me, that was just not doing the job. But we are where we are. One of the other things I used to carry in my record boxes, I used to carry slip mats. Does anyone remember what a slip mat was? So those who don't know what a slip mat is, effectively you had a piece of material that you would pop on top of the record platter. I used to take off the club, whatever club mats were on there, because you never knew what had been on the club mats. Normally beer and stuff like that, and it get onto your records, make your records horrible. So I used to have my own slip mats. Take the club mat off, put the slip mat on, and then you could hold things on the slip. You could advance, you could thing back, and the direct drive of the record deck wouldn't interfere because the slip mat was designed to allow it to slip, which was one of the great things. And unfortunately, I've lost all my records. I sold them years ago, as I did sell my Technics SL1210s. And if you don't know what an SL1210 is, it probably will appear up here. But an SL1210 was the sort of club staple. They were direct drive decks, and they were superb. Really were superb. They used a digital quartz lock chip to keep the actual machine or the record deck within a certain parameter. And you knew when it was actually running at the right speed as well, because you could tell visually, because there was a strobe onto the side of the platter, and you knew at 30 if you were running at 45, it was the second one down was standing still within the strobe line. So you instantly knew as a DJ that you were actually bang on 45 RPM or 33 1/3 RPM. There were sort of certain visual indicators there, which was great if you were in a dark nightclub. Because I can remember working in certain nightclubs where the DJ booth had no lighting whatsoever. It was almost, you know, you had to. I used to have clip-on lights that would go on top of the boxes and plug them in, so that I could actually see what the records were. But now I have a MacBook. I have all my CD collection. It is now transferred to iTunes or an electronic library. And I have the home version of CDJs. Does that mean I've copped out? Does that mean I've sold out? Have I lost that skill? The art of DJing. Is the art of DJing dead? I'm not sure. If you liked the content of the video you've just seen, please give it a thumbs up. It just helps the YouTube algorithm with its selection process. If you want to leave a comment, please feel free to do that as well. Down below somewhere should be the ability to do that. I do try to respond to all the comments that are raised on the channel. Sometimes it takes me a few weeks because of what I'm doing, and I'm getting more and more and more comments and questions raised on the channel, so it just takes sometimes a little bit of time to do a bit of research. If you want to be notified when I put more rants, mailbergs, and videos about this sort of legacy tech and even modern tech on the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified by YouTube when stuff happens. I try to publish at least 2 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. Until next time, bye bye.